All right, dive in, everybody. We're tackling radical honesty today. You guys wanted to unpack if, really being honest, especially in a relationship, could actually make you happier, more genuine, all that good stuff. So we're going deep into Brad Blanton's book, Radical Honesty. And get this, he says those little white lies we all tell, yeah, those can really pile up.
Oh, absolutely. Blanton's argument is that trying to sugarcoat things just to avoid, discomfort or to make ourselves look better can actually lead to a lot of stress and unhappiness in the long run.
So no more pretending everything's perfect when it's totally not. Got it.
Hmm.
But Blanton doesn't just stop there, right? He calls all this dishonesty bullshit.
Exactly. And not just the kind you're thinking of.
Yeah, there's levels to this.
Yeah. He uses bullshit to describe any time we let our thoughts, pull us away from actually experiencing what's happening right now, in this moment. That constant chatter in our heads, the replays of the past, the worries about the future, all bullshit, according to Blanton. He calls it the mind stream, this constant flow of thoughts that can prevent us from really being present in our lives.
So it's like our own minds are playing tricks on us, keeping us from truly connecting with our partners, with life itself.
And what's fascinating is that Blanton doesn't just point out the bullshit, he gives us tools to break free from it. One of his most memorable phrases is, lose your mind and come to your senses.
I love that. But how does that actually work, especially when it comes to relationships? If my partner asks, do these pants make me look fat?
Hmm.
I'm not sure radical honesty is the answer there,
Yeah.
at least if I want to, survive the experience.
That's a great point, and it highlights a common misconception about radical honesty. Blanton isn't advocating for, brutal honesty or just being blunt to make a point.
So it's not about being mean or hurtful.
Right. It's more about aligning your inner world, your thoughts and feelings, with your outer world, your words and actions. So it's about being true to your own experience first, and then figuring out how to express that authentically to others.
So it's more like mindful honesty.
Exactly. It's about being thoughtful about the impact of your words, but also staying true to yourself.
Okay, that makes a lot more sense. So it's not about being hurtful, it's about keeping it real.
Yeah.
But Blanton also talks about different levels of honesty, right? It's not a one-size-fits-all kind of thing. Okay, so let's break down these levels of honesty. How can they actually help someone have a more honest and fulfilling relationship?
So Blanton outlines 3 levels. The first level is about, revealing the facts, getting those deceptions out in the open.
So like clearing the air.
Exactly. It's about clearing the air of any lingering secrets, especially those that might be, impacting your relationship.
Gotcha. So if you've been keeping a secret from your partner, even if it was way before you even met them.
That would fall under level 1, honesty.
So being totally truthful about your past.
Yes. And while it might seem daunting, Blanton argues that this level of honesty can actually be incredibly liberating. He talks about this woman named Kathleen. She had kept a past abortion secret from our family for years. It was eating away at her, causing her immense emotional pain, and even manifesting in physical ailments.
Wow, that's heavy stuff. So what happened? Did she ever, open up?
It was a turning point for her. Just by revealing the truth, by no longer carrying that weight of the secret, she experienced this profound relief, both emotionally and physically.
That's really powerful. It shows how much honesty can impact us, even physically. But I can imagine it's not always easy to just rip off the Band-Aid like that,
Okay.
especially if you're, terrified of how people are going to react.
Oh, absolutely. Blanton talks about another woman, Linda, who really struggled with this first level of honesty. She had a lot of secrets from her past, affairs she'd kept hidden from both her father and her current husband.
Wow, yeah, that's a lot to carry around. Did she end up revealing everything?
She did eventually open up to her husband about it all, but she ultimately chose not to tell her father about her past.
Because she was afraid of how he'd react.
Yeah, she was afraid of his judgment, his disappointment.
That's heartbreaking.
Yeah.
But I get it. It's like, how do you even begin to unpack years of secrets, especially with someone like a parent?
It's definitely a process. And it's not always easy. Linda's story really highlights the very real fear we all have about the potential consequences of being completely honest. We're afraid of hurting the people we care about, of being judged or rejected. But Blanton would argue that the cost of withholding the truth, that's even greater.
So even though it's scary, to be totally honest, holding back could actually do more damage to the relationship.
Exactly. When we withhold the truth, it creates this distance, this distrust. It can lead to feelings of resentment, isolation, which ultimately just eat away at the foundation of any relationship.
So then what? What's the alternative? How do you strike that balance between being honest, but also protecting yourself, protecting the relationship?
That's where the second level of truth-telling comes in. This level focuses on honestly and directly expressing your feelings and thoughts in the present moment.
Okay, so not just confessing past actions, but being real about what's going on inside, like right here, right now.
You got it. It's about staying connected to your own experience in the moment and then sharing that authentically with your partner, even when it feels scary or uncomfortable.
So if I'm feeling like insecure or jealous, instead of just, shoving it down and pretending I'm fine, I should just tell my partner how I'm feeling, even if it's not pretty.
Exactly. And this isn't just a one-time thing. Blanton emphasizes that this is ongoing, challenging work. It's a constant practice of checking in with yourself, being honest about your emotions, and then communicating them to your partner in a way that's both authentic and respectful.
This is starting to sound a bit like therapy, but like in a good way.
Right.
Like I'm learning to be more honest with myself first,
Mhm.
so I can then be more honest with my partner.
That's a great way to put it. And it's important to remember that this level of honesty isn't about just dumping all your negative emotions on your partner.
Right. It's not about just complaining all the time.
Exactly. It's also about expressing your love, appreciation, and desire openly as well.
So it's more like a constant open dialogue about what's going on inside for both people. No more masks, no more pretending.
Exactly. And this naturally leads us to Blanton's third level of radical honesty, which dives specifically into how this all plays out in relationships. He's got let's just say he has some pretty unconventional exercises for couples who really want to dive deep.
Okay, now you've got me intrigued. But before we get to those exercises, I got to ask, how does this level of honesty actually work in practice? It's one thing to, talk about being truthful, but relationships are messy. What about all those complicated emotions and dynamics that come into play?
Yeah, that's the real question, isn't it? How do we deal with all that messy stuff while still trying to be radically honest? Well, Blanton actually thinks it's those messy emotions we need to focus on. He thinks a lot of relationship problems come from the stories we tell ourselves about our partners, stories that are, often based on fear or insecurity or past hurts.
Right, we all have baggage. But how do we even begin to separate those stories from, like, what's actually real?
Blanton suggests some pretty radical practices. And, it's important to remember these are suggestions, not rules. One is to share your entire life story with your partner, like everything, even the embarrassing stuff.
Whoa, okay. That's intense. Not sure I'm ready to unpack all that on a first date.
Huh. Yeah, maybe not a first date. But the idea is to create that space of like radical transparency with your partner, to be fully known.
So it's about building trust through vulnerability.
Exactly. And it goes beyond just the past. He also suggests sharing your sexual histories, being open about any attraction you feel to others, even if you would never act on it.
Okay, yeah, that one definitely pushes the limits. I could see how that level of honesty would be so challenging, but also like incredibly freeing. No more hiding, no more secrets.
Right. It's about taking away the power that shame and secrecy have in so many relationships. He also talks about the importance of directly expressing both your resentment and appreciation. So instead of letting those feelings just build up inside you, you talk about them openly and honestly with your partner.
It's like radical honesty is less about avoiding those tough conversations and more about like learning how to actually have them in a way that's productive.
You got it. It's about shifting from a place of blame and defensiveness to a place of understanding and empathy. But I know what you're thinking. How can any relationship actually survive that?
I was just thinking that. It seems like it could go off the rails so easily.
It can. But this is where Blanton's concept of the holy human prototype comes in. It's about remembering that we're all imperfect. We're all just trying to figure things out. It's about seeing your partner not as you want them to be, but as they truly are, flaws and all.
So instead of trying to change our partners, we're choosing to accept them completely.
Yes. And Blanton says this kind of radical acceptance, that's essential for true intimacy. It lets you connect with your partner on a much deeper, more authentic level because you're not trying to fit them into some perfect mold.
Okay, I'm starting to see it. It's like we're letting go of the fantasy and embracing the reality of each other. But what about someone listening who's thinking, okay, all of this sounds great, but where do I even start? What are some practical steps they can take to actually bring more radical honesty into their lives?
Well, Blanton really emphasizes that change doesn't happen overnight. It's a process, takes practice. But he does have some concrete suggestions. One is, start with yourself. He talks about the importance of resolving any unfinished business you have, especially with your parents. Clearing the air with them can really free you up emotionally.
Like Kathleen did when she finally revealed her secret. Facing those past hurts, that can be such a powerful step.
Totally. He also suggests finding a shared purpose with your partner, something you both really believe in that you can work towards together.
So it's not just about talking, it's about doing, creating something together.
Yeah.
Shared goals can definitely bring people closer.
For sure. And Blanton also encourages finding a community that supports this kind of radical honesty. Surround yourself with people who get it, who encourage you to be your true self. It makes the whole journey a lot easier. He even has a name for his whole approach to life: futilitarianism.
Futilitarianism. Okay, gotta admit, that one still throws me off a little. What exactly does that mean, and how does it relate to radical honesty?
It might sound kind of intimidating at first, but it's actually pretty liberating. It's about accepting the fact that we can't control everything. Life is unpredictable, and we drive ourselves crazy trying to control every little thing. But if we can accept that some things are just out of our hands, it can be incredibly freeing.
Okay, yeah, I can see how that ties into honesty. If we're always trying to be in control, we're probably more likely to, tell those little white lies to keep up appearances.
Yeah.
But if we just embrace the uncertainty of it all.
Exactly. It's like realizing you can't control the weather, right? But you can choose how you're going to respond to it. Same goes for all the ups and downs life throws at us. And when you embrace that, it's so much easier to just be honest about who you are, how you feel. There's less pressure to pretend.
I love that. So radical honesty, it's not about being perfect. It's about being present with ourselves, with our partners, with whatever life throws at us.
You nailed it. It's a challenging path, absolutely, but the potential for transformation is huge. It's about showing up authentically in your relationships, in your life, even when it's scary.
Well, that's a wrap. Our deep dive into radical honesty. Remember, it's not about being brutally honest or trying to hurt anyone. It's about choosing authenticity, even when it's uncomfortable. And who knows, it might just lead to a more genuine, more fulfilling life.
And as Blanton reminds us, we are all pretty much the same as noticing beings, so there's nothing left to do but be and do. So what does being and doing honestly look like for you? That's something to think about.